The scratching did not come from the wood of the door. It came from the inside of my own skull. A dry, rhythmic scraping, like a fingernail dragging across bone. Outside my own voice, the one that had just claimed to be home, wasn't talking anymore. It was humming a low, distorted version of a lullaby my mother used to sing. But the notes were wrong. They were vibrating in the floorboards under my feet. I looked at the clock. 3:14 a.m. Still. I know you are awake, the voice said. It wasn't muffled by the door. It sounded like it was standing right behind me. I can hear your heart. It's too loud. It's annoying. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. My eyes were locked on the handle. It didn't turn. It melted. The metal dripped like black wax onto the carpet. And then the door didn't open. It simply ceased to exist. There was no monster. There was no shadow. There was just a hallway. But it wasn't my hallway. I stepped out because the room was shrinking. The walls of my bedroom were closing in like a mouth about to swallow me whole. The hallway didn't end at the stairs. It stretched left and right into an infinite gray horizon. And every 10 feet, there was another door. Thousands of them. And above every single door, a digital clock glowed in that cast, bleeding red 3:14 a.m. I started to run. My feet made no sound on the carpet, which felt less like fabric and more like cold, damp soil. As I passed the door, I heard them. Behind one door, I heard myself sobbing. Behind another, I heard myself laughing. A jagged, manic sound that made my ears bleed. In one room, I heard the sound of a clock ticking so loudly it sounded like a hammer hitting an anvil. I wasn't just trapped in a room. I was trapped in a library of every me that ever stayed awake too long. I was a page in a book that someone had forgotten to close. Then I saw it. at the very end of the infinite hall, a mirror, not a door, a mirror that filled the entire wall from floor to ceiling. I reached the glass. The me in the mirror didn't look like me anymore. His skin was the color of old parchment. His eyes, they weren't eyes. They were just two digital clocks, frozen at 3:14. He smiled, not with his mouth, but with his whole face stretching upward. He reached out his hand. I reached out mine. When our fingers touched, there was no glass. There was only a cold magnetic pull. It was like my soul was being sucked through a straw. The world flipped. Left became right. Up became down. A deafening click echoed through the infinite wall. I blinked. I was in my bed. The sun was streaming through the window. Birds were chirping. I gasped, clutching my chest, feeling my heart settle into a normal rhythm. I looked at my phone. 7 a.m. I laughed. A wet, relieved sob. I got up to wash my face. I walked to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my skin. I looked up at the mirror to see my reflection. But the reflection didn't look back. The me in the mirror was still standing by the bed. He was looking out the window. And outside that window, the birds weren't moving. The trees were frozen. The sun was just a static painted yellow glow. I pounded on the glass, but there was no sound. I looked at the bathroom counter. There, sitting next to the sink, was the clock. The red numbers flickered once. 3:15 a.m. The loop didn't break. It just moved. And now, I am the one behind the glass. I am watching you right now. You think you're reading this? You think you're awake? But check your clock. Is the second hand moving? Because I'm coming for the exit and you're standing on my